Hi, my name is Ariel from the Children of Karma, and today I'd like to discuss the moon and the sun aspects. This will be very different between each aspect. So, for example, the conjunction is the new moon. You're planting your seeds, and the sun and the moon together is our wants, our needs, future and the past, mother and the father, the conscious and the unconscious. And with the conjunction, we find that you're very single-minded and you're focused on one particular thing. You're putting all your eggs into one basket. And this will depend on what sign, what house. For example, the house is the area of life that you're single-minded and focused on. For example, 10th house, career, 7th house, partner, 4th house, family, 1st house, self. Second house, money, for example. This also shows that the parents were a unified front. So they're single-minded, they're focused, they have the same goals, they're parenting the child in the same exact way, they're in alignment. And this also shows a person who can't really register other opinions. They're focused on self. They identify with self and what they think, and they don't quite understand different opinions. This is really from the parent. Typically with this, the parent may be unable to share the role of mother and father, so they play both roles. It can also show, a single parent too, playing both of the roles together. The aspect can show a fusion of the masculine and feminine energies, so maybe you'll have an androgynous style. It can be also with the males. The males may have, it can go both ways. They either have an issue with the feminine energy, or maybe they identify more with the mother and they identify with that energy. For the women, you can identify more with the dad, or you can have issues with the masculine energy within. And it's also represented throughout society. I think society has a limiting belief about the feminine only existing within the female, when we both carry masculine and feminine energy within. And truly, I think the issue comes from expressing that energy and maybe worrying about what society thinks, not being enough of something or being too much of the other. We all carry a different amount of this energy within, a different amount of masculine versus feminine. We all have our own particular ratios, and if we drop the limiting beliefs of society, of everyone, even ourselves, because all beliefs are limiting. And if we drop those beliefs and we just express self the way that we were meant to, the way that we feel called to, that's where we find our authenticity. It's like society tries to put everyone into a box, and some of us don't fit in that box. Most of us don't fit in these boxes. I think we're just trying to. These aspects can have some difficulty leaving home. They're very deeply rooted in the past. They are meant to bring the past into the consciousness, into the light, illuminate the past, and grow from that wisdom. They're pioneers. They start new things, and they're like a self-generator. They don't need anyone else to bounce their ideas off of. They can just move solo. With the full moon now, this will be the opposition of the sun and the moon. The full moon, you're born on the full moon, and this can show an unfocused, indecisive energy between the parents. It can show some conflict. It can show divorce. It can show maybe living in separate places and having to shuffle between the two, showing that the parents played different roles. Maybe one is an introvert, the other is an extrovert. Maybe one likes to spend a lot of money and the other one likes to save. They're very different, and so it can feel like you're bouncing between two different sets of rules. That the parents were divorced too. You're splitting time between homes. There are different rules to follow, and but this also makes you also more able to accept different viewpoints. You can look at things from multiple sides. You're not just so single-minded like the new moon. the conjunction would be. Also, it shows some self-awareness, you know, and also needing a relationship to define self. You know, sometimes we do this, I do this as well. It's like you learn more about yourself through others and learning about their experiences. And so this aspect needs a relationship to define self. This relationship also would provide that inner security, the emotional security that this aspect needs. With a square, for example, you always have these conflicts, just like the opposition. The conflict between the parents is present in the opposition and in the square as well. And with the square, it can feel like you're working really hard to provide that emotional security for yourself. It can feel that, you know, the parents are always in conflict, and then the child can think that they are the cause of the conflict. They are the ones that are in the way of the parents. The parent can maybe get in the way of the relationship that you have with your other parents, can block that relationship with them. Can also be divorce, shuffling between homes, and it can show a person that really wants to please the parents, make them proud, do something that can make them proud. Although within they feel that they're disappointing them. It can also feel like a challenge between your wants, between your needs. It can feel like your parent is also blocking your path. You know, somehow they're blocking your path, even with sickness, for example. I've had this with the parents getting sick and having to come back home. That square, it's always a chaotic environment. It's unstable. With the positive aspects, the sextile, the trines, you can feel comfortable with yourself. You have a stable home, a stable environment. You know, you're at peace. The trines, of course, you know, can always go wrong. We can get too complacent. We can think that everything is great. You know, this is a natural gift, the trine. And sometimes we can forget to question ourselves. And this can be a slippery slope. You know, you can think that you've got it all together, and you can miss the little signs that show that things are going wrong. So this can be a difficulty of the trine. Thank you for joining me for this video, and I'd love to see you at thechildrenofkarma.com so we can find out your ancestral patterns. Let's find out what has been traveling through your family line for generations and how we can better work with them so that we're not repeating the patterns of the past. We're getting out of this cycle and we're starting a new one that's more informed, one that's aware, and one that can tune into a different frequency within this aspect. Don't forget to like the video.